Welcome back to this last chapter of the claiming of Grimmauld Place. This is the epilogue, so after this, the story will be finished. We're gonna start with some October shenanigans soon. Basically, I think tomorrow when I record this. So stay around. There will be a lot of one-shots, two-shots, shorter stories, different pairings, a lot of Drarry, some Dramini, some rare pairs, all fall-themed, Halloween-themed, spooky vibes. I'm really looking forward to sharing it, and I do hope you stick around for it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like this video, and now have fun with the epilogue. The Claiming of Grimmauld Place by bixgirl1. Epilogue. To make a house a home.
It's going to be mad. Nonsense.
Draco divested of his robes as quickly as possible, padding over their shared wardrobe, nothing but his pants to dither for a moment before putting out an inky black three-piece suit. He centered a look at Harry, the corner of his mouth coming up slightly.
But we are going to be late, and that'll make Pansy angry. I'd prefer to stay on her good side after all.
Harry swallowed a couple of times, watching Draco's bottom flex beneath the form-fitting cut of his boxer briefs before conceding the point.
Fine,
he said sullenly. Draco humphed under his breath, but he wore a smile. He levitated a pair of charcoal pinstripe trousers and a burgundy button-down over to Harry as he got dressed.
Just think,
he said, voice silky as he began to get dressed,
how happy it will be if we wait until we're there.
Which was sort of weird, but mostly right. Harry gave up his sock and started getting dressed too.
I don't even know how I got roped into this. You were the only one with a wizarding house,
Draco said simply. He poked his tongue into the side of his cheeks as he pointed his wand at the polished shoes to tie the laces. Then,
for now at least. That still doesn't explain why I said yes,
Harry complained.
Because Grimmauld Place likes it.
Flushing, Harry finished putting on his own shoes, then summoned their trunks.
I'll be glad for the break anyway.
Me too, Draco said with a sigh. He looked into his trunk, nodded, and then frowned and strode over to the cabinet where they kept their flower seeds.
Forgot this. If you'd like to talk about someone whom we shouldn't make mad, it's almost certainly Dancer. I've got a whole bag in my trunk,
Harry said, rolling his eyes. Looking sheepish, Draco tucked in the remainder of the seeds into his own trunk, then spilled them through the floor. Carefully lifted Dancer's cage by its wide golden handle, then gave Harry an expectant glance.
Ready?
Harry gazed around their shared professor's quarters. They already looked a little barren, a little lackluster, as if the castle was preparing for their extended absence over the holidays, even though Draco still had his robes thrown casually over their small love-seat, and Harry still had a teacup with a half-inch of cold tea left in, on his nightstand. There were pictures on the mantel of the two of them, of their respective families and friends, and if anyone had ever told Harry that he would be willingly have a picture of the Malfoy family resting on his mantel, he'd have hustled them to the mental healing wing of St. Mungo's without delay, and Harry's half-graded classroom scrolls and Draco's training potions proofs cluttered together over their two-sided desk in the small joint office of their living space. All of it spoke to home, and it was. Only for the first time Harry had another place to which he could apply that word, and it was his and Draco's alone.
Yeah, Harry said. You first.
Draco gave him a dark look, frowning as though he knew what would be waiting, which he probably did, Harry thought as he watched Draco disappear, gulped and stepped forward with a pinch of flue powder. Of course Draco knew what would be waiting. He was used to those things. Harry wasn't. He didn't throw parties. He threw down the powder and popped out of the flue in the dining room, only to be assaulted with Pansy's half-hysterical voice railing on Draco for the later hour. Harry checked on the clock on the mantel and grimaced. They were 10 minutes behind.
Don't care about them. They get to have you all year, at most, and you're not even spending Christmas with me. You'll be visiting your father,
Draco cut in, annoyed.
That hardly matters.
Pansy continued her rant, but it was obvious she was winding down, because her voice kept falling from shrill notes before she resumed. Harry sidled over to where Luna was standing idly, one knee crooked to her foot propped flat against the wall as she leaned against it. Harry bent to kiss her cheek, and she beamed at him.
You look pretty,
he said.
Where's Jen, and how long has she been like that?
All day, Luna said blithely. Since last night, really. She was so nervous. She didn't feel like making love. Not even when Ginny went.
That's okay,
Harry said, holding up a hand. Luna smiled. And you look very nice, too. Ginny's been trying to get Creature to prepare things, but Grimmauld hasn't been listening for some reason. She leaned closer, her smile kind, as she flicked a glance to Pansy. She's invited a lot of people, is the thing.
Oh, of course she has,
Harry said, sighing. And of course Grimmauld Place wasn't cooperating. He ran an appreciative hand over the cherry wainscoting, smiling when he felt the wood warm under his hands, felt the ripple of returned regard. The room fluttered around him, then abruptly creaked loudly as it widened, the dining-room table smoothly shortening and sliding across to rest against the far wall. The dining-room chair spread out in a blink of conjuration, multiplying and transfiguring with ease, transferred to the edges of the room as the rug that normally rested under the dining-room table rolled up and disappeared with a small plop.
Potter!
Pansy abruptly stopped talking to Draco, tossing shoulder-length hair back to reveal equally long, sparkly earrings that matched her silver dress. To Harry's only partly appalled astonishment, she threw herself into his arms.
Finally! I get yelled at, Draco said dryly, and he gets hugged. Things have changed since the war. I've been trying to tell you,
Harry said over her shoulder, petting her awkwardly. She finally pulled away and scowled. Harry ticked another glance at Draco.
But not that much.
People will be here soon. There are always a few people without the ounce of social graces required to understand they should show up at least 15 minutes late, she said. Where have you been? And why did you bring that?
She added, pointing to Dancer. Dancer squeaked, lounging back on her tiny pillow bed and flashing wicked, sharp teeth in a feral sort of pout that had Harry wincing.
That's Dancer,
Harry said. He tamped down a grin at Draco's soft expression and a sudden concern on his face as he fiddled with the latch on her huge gold cage.
She's our new pet.
Fairies don't really enjoy being thought of as pets,
Luna said in her thoughtful way.
She has malformed wings,
Harry murmured.
Not the best flyer, so not very welcome in her coven.
Well, that's just lovely of Draco, then.
Luna smiled at them, bright and approving. Draco looked up wryly, then rebent to the task of opening Dancer's cage.
If she bites anyone, I'll be angry,
Pansy said.
I've been waiting for ages. Can you fix it now?
Harry snorted.
What did you think I was doing?
He held out a hand.
Let me look over the list again.
Pansy huffed a sigh, waved her wand, and slapped the conjured bit of parchment into his hand. Harry studied it for a moment, then nodded.
All right. Go check with Creature and Ginny about the food. I'll take care of this.
Pansy looked ready to object, but Luna wrapped a persuasive arm around her waist, and, after a moment, Pansy yielded to her gentle tugging and followed her out of the dining room. She cast a nervous, helpless look over her shoulder, and she was guided firmly out. Draco walked over to his side. Dancer perched lightly on his shoulder, looking around curiously. Draco tilted his glasses down a notch, then glanced at the list and snickered.
Why did you agree to this? Because my boyfriend is a menace who withheld sex,
Harry mumbled, shoving his own glasses higher on the bridge of his nose.
Until I said his spoiled best friend could use my house to host a birthday party when she'd invited too many people for her flat to hold.
Oh, that,
Draco said smugly, as if he hadn't practically sobbed in relief 2 days later, and scrabbling behind himself into Harry's hair as Harry diligently rimmed him open.
Well,
Dancer made a tiny musical sound to note high and questioning. Her oversized violet wings fluttered and her tiny face twisted with concentration. Draco turned his head, eyes softening.
Yes, you can go look around.
He jostled his shoulder a little to help her with the takeoff, and finally she rose, clearing a few inches and then a few more in the air, bobbling only slightly as she began flying in circles around the room. Her shining blue hair streaked behind her as she began to fly faster in her excitement, and she lowered to hover in place, making a series of rapid sing-songy notes that Draco listened to thoughtfully.
Francis, you should be in the parlor. Be nice.
Draco pointed across the foyer, and Dancer fluttered her long gold lashes at him with a pleased smile before darting out of the room unevenly.
Shall I, then?
Harry said, when he had Draco's attention again.
I'll stop you if you make a mistake.
Harry gave him a faint smile, then closed his eyes. He felt the shift of the floor beneath his feet, smooth and steady, a transfer of materials from the rest of the house, changing the wood into marble. Then the soft whoosh, like the way the air fit to shape around a new person in the room when they entered, only it was just more room being added as Harry focused on the pulsing knot of magic inside him reversed for communication with his home. The house burrowed from the attic to extend the room, and all 4 of the guest rooms on the 3rd floor shrank as well to accommodate the dimension of the ballrooms as Pansy had requested. Harry placed a hand on the wall again, trailing his fingers over the wood, a steady hum of delight at being useful, being found precious under his fingertips. The texture of the walls shimmered a bit, then smoothed out again. When Harry opened his eyes, the room had quadrupled in size, and the walls had turned a bright, clear white. He glanced at Draco and raised his eyebrows.
Well, not bad,
Draco said, obviously trying not to look too impressed. Harry smirked and Draco looked around.
There's more, though.
I know. Harry checked the list again, grinning.
Let's get to work, then. You did this?
Ron said for the 5th time in disbelief. He took a long sip from a fizzy silver drink, then brought a fist up to tap his chest as he coughed and emitted a faint blue mist.
It's more elaborate than I thought was your, style.
Elaborate was a good word for it, perhaps, and also in every statement. The house had charmed the ballroom to the rafters with decorations. Sparkling silver and gold and white bubbles floated through the air, hopping intermittently to rain a shower of glitter down over whoever was beneath them. There were buffet tables filled with hors d'oeuvres along one wall, a long bar against another where guests could tap their drink choice with their wand to refill their glasses or champagne flutes. On the other side of the room, near the set of 4 glass doors that opened into existence leading to an outside terrace, there was a set of bewitched instruments that switched the music at regular intervals, playing everything from the Weird Sisters to the Dragon Riders to Celestina Warbeck. But for all of the people taking advantage of the dance floor, people were also lounging idly on squashy chairs in the corner. Some glamoured for comfort and appeal, taken from his attic, some transfigured from Harry's dining room set, all clustering together in small groups to talk and laugh quietly. It was extravagant in the extreme, but also cozy and simple and warm, despite the painstaking setup and the table stacked nearly to the ceiling with brightly wrapped gifts.
Yes, I did this, Harry said, waggling his eyebrows. Well, it's not a witch's coming out, at least,
Ron said with a sigh.
When have you ever been to one of those?
Harry asked. Ron shrugged.
Was dragged to a couple when I was a kid, cousins and the like. There,
he grimaced.
More posh. This isn't too bad.
Which doesn't explain why the 2 of you are hiding in the corner, Hermione said, slipping an arm around Ron's waist as she joined them.
Got vantage point,
Harry said. For what, may I ask? She took Ron's string from him and zipped it, eyes widening as she coughed out her own blue smoke.
What's in this? It's called a Mermaid's Tail, so it's anyone's guess,
Harry said, laughing when she paled.
Relax, creature made it.
If I find out actual Mermaid's Tail went into it. Hermione gave him a warning look before taking another thoughtful sip. Her eyes brightened a bit. It's good, she admitted. Ron nudged her with his elbow, and she grinned, suddenly in such a way that put Harry immediately on guard. So, what? Harry asked cautiously. I don't suppose you've heard any of the rumours flying about the Ministry. Wary, Harry stiffened. He adopted a bored face. Why would I? Draco and I have been at Hogwarts for months. We seldom get a break. Hermione took a longer drink, amused gaze on him over the rim of the glass. Well, then you'll be happy to hear that the sale of Malfoy Manor fell through. Again. Harry coughed. Well, sure. You know how much Draco wants to buy it back come summer. What happened this time? Oh, Hermione hummed noncommittally. The gates wouldn't allow entrance. They kept sending out stinging hexes, and some of the vines were growing around them, tried to attack the prospective buyers who were coming to inspect the property again. Funny how no one was actually hurt. Don't forget the ghosts, Ronzo with a little smile. Right, the ghosts. Hermione's grin widened. Apparently there was a veritable army of them marching towards the gate to ward off the buyers, much like in Fairy. How strange, Harry said, biting his lip. Isn't it, though? Yes. It was, as a matter of fact. He and Draco had not remotely planned for the conjured ghost to look like in Fairy. But, fortunately, I suppose, Draco will know how to handle them once he gets the land back. Hermione hummed again, exchanging a pleased look with Ron, allowing Harry to fall silent. He let his eyes wander, then settle on Draco as Blaise led him out to the middle of the dance floor. He watched them for a few seconds. Their perfect postures and gorgeously contrasting skin tones. Draco's shoulders held wide, one hand at Blaise's hip and the other in Blaise's grip. It was elegant and fluid, and Harry wanted to keep watching, except... Excuse me, he said. He finished his glass, then headed out to the dance floor, tapping Blaise expectantly on the shoulder. May I? Blaise rolled his eyes. Isn't the whole point of him dancing with Meaty? Oh, yes, but that's done, Harry said. Both Blaise and Draco raised their eyebrows. Then Blaise relinquished Draco, and Harry stepped into his place. That's done, Draco said, smoothly taking the lead. Harry tried not to stumble. It wasn't too hard, not with Draco's hand at the small of his back and the rasp of Draco's thighs against his own. He concentrated on that. I didn't realize we had agreed to that. We agreed to a lot more, Harry said as the buzz of whispers grew around them. He caught a quick, twirling glimpse of Pansy's outraged face, probably for stealing her thunder, and smiled. I only help you when you ask me to. It's not about that. No one thinks you're working at Hogwarts because of me. No one suspects that the manor hasn't been sold because of our activities. Such as sneaking out of Hogwarts via Floo every time someone who had the interest and galleons to buy Malfoy Manor went to view it. Coming up with elaborate plans to scare them off, then enacting them from under Harry's cloak and disillusionment charms. The Malfoy property practically sang with delight whenever Draco stepped onto it, still more than willing to let him call from the magic in the earth to stay connected to him, despite the progression of detachment that happened when the ownership of a magical property was transferred or taken away. Draco smirked. Some people do. People who know us, Harry allowed. But it was your idea, and I'm just along for the ride, mostly. You had your fair share, Draco murmured, looking at his mouth. Right, so I want my fair share, Harry said. Which is? This, Harry said, lifting his chin a touch to kiss Draco. He heard the sharp inhalation of surrounding partygoers, and though the press was emphatically not allowed, Grimmauld would never grant them access anyhow, aware as it was of Harry's preferences and thoughts on most journalists. He saw the flash of a camera and knew that the picture would make it to the Prophet by the following morning. There was no going back. Their shared living quarters at Hogwarts finally up for public consumption. The media frenzy begun. And Harry couldn't care less. Not if he got to have this. Though just as aware of the risks, Draco's mouth moved gently against Harry's, the palm on Harry's back pulling him closer, his tongue coaxing Harry's mouth open. Their dance became more of a swaying place, and when Draco finally lifted his head, it was with slickened lips and dilated pupils.
"Trade again, then?"
he asked in a low voice. Harry cracked a husky laugh and clutched Draco tighter. Draco's hand was warm and sure in his own, his movements economic and graceful as they resumed dancing.
"It's what we're good at," Harry said.
He grazed a thumb over Draco's lower lip and felt Draco shudder against him.
"Who would have guessed?"
Draco asked sardonically, then swept him into the rest of the dance.
"All right,"
Harry asked, slipping into the shadows with Draco tucked against his side.
"How long can a pureblood party last?"
Draco skirted the wide square of light spilling out over the patio with him.
"Until sunup, generally,"
he said.
"Unless it's a house party, in which case several days is standard."
The garden was icy and white with mid-December snow, cold enough to deter any partygoers from venturing outdoors beyond the conjured terrace. But it warmed by several degrees for Harry, some of the snow melting off the tightly closed buds of flowers, the grass turning bright green and shiny with water. A gust of heat hit them both, and Draco moaned appreciatively.
"I will have Grimmauld expel everyone out on their sorry asses if they try to sleep here,"
Harry said with no little amount of tipsy vehemence.
"Relax, it's only 3. Right, it's 3.
Harry made a gesture that caused Draco to snort as they made their way deeper into the garden.
"Aren't you getting? Come here,"
Draco said, laughing quietly. He pulled Harry close and kissed him, then kissed him again until the garden started swooping around them. Harry wound his arm around Draco's shoulders.
"Caressing!"
Paul griped out, popping out of his gnome hole. Harry broke away with a groan.
"Could you just give us a few minutes, Paul?" "A few minutes?"
Draco asked, looking a touch offended. Harry snickered.
"No, say hello,"
Paul said snippily, climbing out anyway.
"Just for a kissing in the garden is home."
"Hello," Harry said obediently. Draco chuckled, his forehead falling to Harry's shoulder. He started mouthing at Harry's throat.
"Hello, Paul."
He echoed the words muffled against Harry's skin.
"I can't,"
Harry said, canting his hips so the erection met with Draco's through the trousers.
"Not while he's watching." "He's watched us plenty of times,"
Draco said. He nipped the cuff of Harry's neck, his hands finding Harry's belt to undo it. Harry let his head fall back.
"Not when I know about it,"
he gasped out as Draco worked his fly open and fit a hand inside of his pants. His own hands automatically strayed between them, fumbling with Draco's trousers too. Draco jerked with a quiet groan when Harry tucked them down around his hips, curling a loose fist around Draco's cock.
"He's a voyeuristic little shit,"
Draco said with a sly smile, his eyes dark and knowing on Harry's face. After a second, Draco dropped his gaze and shivered as he watched them stroke each other. Harry did too, turning them slightly to shield Paul's view from the most explicit of it when he glanced up and saw Paul sitting cross-legged and watching them while he munched on a handful of every-flavoured beans.
"You always know about it." Fuck, whatever, I need,"
Harry said, nodding against Draco's shoulder.
"Okay, yes, like that, that's good." "Oh, I know,"
Draco said, kissing him on the neck again, open-mouthed and wet. He gave a low, wicked laugh, and Harry redoubled his efforts with a tiny grunt. It all felt overwhelming, blinding in its goodness, its dizzying flood of familiarity. Draco moaned again as he came, and Harry blinked his eyes open as he felt it. Over Draco's shuddering shoulder he saw the sudden bloom of flowers, still beaded with the melting crystals of snow. Azaleas and dragon's head and delphiniums and marigold, a riot of colour in the stalk of the garden. Yellows and reds and violet, and Harry came hard too, curling his fingers around the back of Draco's neck to pull him into a messy kiss, as the pleasure crested. Finally they drew away, carefully turning so their backs were to Paul as they spelled the mess clean. The chill of winter had completely slipped away, leaving the garden balmy. Draco had been right. Grimmauld Place was pleased they were home. Everything tucked away and zipped, Harry sighed. He gave Draco another kiss, then turned to Paul, who was still sitting in the same spot, only now lounging backwards, hands planted at the softened earth.
Sorry, Paul.
Cox!
Yeah, sorry.
Harry said again, sheepish.
Paul like it, woman, Dodden. More Cox.
We're not going to fondle each other to change the season for you,
Draco said, exacerbated. Harry slanted him a glance, and Draco flushed a little.
At least my pet has manners,
he said, nodding to Frank. Harry blanched.
When did he get out here? I don't know. Creature must have brought him out,
Draco said with a shrug, just as Frank said.
It is very good, the spitting of seed in the garden between mates.
Draco crouched and patted his head, crooning at him under his breath, and Harry closed his eyes in horror.
He shouldn't be watching us, but it's okay for your gnome?
Draco asked, pulled a handful of semi-crushed blossoms from his pocket.
It is a delight to watch. It's very successful mating,
Frank said, stretching his neck to retrieve the flowers from Draco's palm.
He doesn't understand, and he looks in our window anyway. It's like you said, he's a voyeuristic little shit.
A high musical note sounded. Both Harry and Draco turned to see Dancer fluttering her wings, sitting daintily on the stone bench. She started jabbering to Draco excitedly. Draco ticked Harry a look.
Apparently she is too. She complimented my technique.
His mouth twisted ruefully as she continued to sing.
And if she decides to come back to Hogwarts with us, I can safely say her cage will be covered in perpetuity.
Harry laughed painfully, incredulous.
What do we? Is it us? You, most likely,
Draco said, as though he hadn't adopted 2 of their 3 inappropriate pets. Then he paused, a line appearing over the bridge of the nose.
What did you mean? Paul doesn't understand.
Just that he doesn't, Harry said.
Come on, let's go inside before it cools down again.
Draco stood, eyes narrowing, as he looked down at Frank, then back up to Harry, then back down again.
Why would you who insists Francis isn't, why would you be worried that he... Wait a minute. You've disillusioned us in the parlor the last several weekends we've come home. Before that, even. I have not,
Harry said hastily, backing away. Draco's eyes were lighting up with an unholy glee that was sure to have Harry regretting having slipped. Draco was bad enough when he was right about the bloody crossword puzzle.
He is,
Draco crowed triumphantly. Dancer flew, and a gracious wobble over to him and landed on his forearms, tugging at his jacket of his suit. He patted distractedly, but didn't look down, too focused on Harry.
Isn't he? He's magical. I knew it. He is not,
Harry yelled. Frank turned his head and gave Harry what looked to be the magical tortoise version of rolling his eyes, then began the arduous task of turning round to head back inside. Harry winced.
All right, he is. You,
Draco said, prowling up to him purposefully and backing Harry into the parlor. The lamps flickered and brightened, the fire flaring to life in the cold hearth.
Are going to pay for this? Any way you like,
Harry said, breathless as Draco crowded him. Dancer climbed up Draco's forearm to his shoulder, then hopped onto his head. Draco reached up to let her climb into his palm, then gently settled her on the mantel.
Yes,
Draco looked at him thoughtfully.
It's a good thing we have plenty of time.
Good thing, Harry echoed, eyes falling to Draco's upturned lips.
You'll explain after the party's over. I promise,
Harry said, chancing another kiss. To his surprise, Draco didn't bite him in retribution, instead kissing him back slowly.
We should get back to it. You're just trying to put off punishment,
Draco said, with a wicked gleam in his eyes.
Not when you say punishment like that, I'm not,
Harry said, laughing as they walked back into the ballroom, palm to palm. The music had got mellower throughout the night, and was now almost lazy under Greg's deft hands as he fiddled with the charm instrument while chatting amiably to Daphne Greengrass. Harry caught sight of Ron and Hermione on the dance floor, Hermione's head tucked under Ron's chin, both of their eyes closed. Farther into the cluster of dancers was a barefoot pansy swaying with Ginny and resting her cheek against Ginny's flaming hair, and across the room Luna sat talking seriously to a tired, bemused Blaze. And it was perfect. Even among 50 other dancing Slytherins and the odd Ravenclaw Gryffindor, Harry felt an untempered happiness spill through him as he looked at them all, feeling the warm press of Draco's body next to his, the sure grip of his palm against Harry's own. He finally dragged his eyes away from his friends and looked at Draco, who was gazing at him in an affectionate, unguarded way that Harry seldom got to see out of bed.
"It's good to be home,"
Draco said, like he understood. Which, of course, he did. Grimmauld Place shivered in welcome again, a tingling blush of love that kissed the tiny hairs on the back of Harry's neck over being called home, and Harry thought about the word for a moment, about its inherent definition. He remembered a time when home was just a miserable place to sleep that gave him a necessary thread of blood protection, remembered when he was welcomed for the first time into the warmth of the Weasley household. He thought of Hogwarts, which would always be home, and it occurred to him that home was no more or less than he wanted it to be, that he'd found it, an unlikely, unexpected, perfect fit, in a man who looked at him now with a softness that was foreign to his nature, just because he felt at home with Harry too. Harry reached out his free hand and touched the wall of Grimmauld Place. The texture of it rippled lightly as though it knew what Harry was thinking. Harry thanked it silently for having known all along what kind of home Harry had needed. "Draco." Harry pulled Draco close. Draco slipped firm hands around Harry's hips and gave him a questioning look. Harry smiled.
"I couldn't have said it better myself."
The end. Thank you so much for listening to this wonderful story by bixgirl1. I really enjoyed recording it. I really enjoyed sharing it with you. I hope you guys enjoyed listening. And as I've mentioned previously, for October I have some really, really cool things planned. So it would mean a lot to me if you stick around. It would also mean a lot to me if you could hit that like button and subscribe button just so I know that you enjoy what I'm doing. And thank you all so much for listening. It means the world to me that people actually listen to the things I record and enjoy them. And I hope to see all of you very, very soon.